daily soccer podcast with the Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the Daily Manchester United. It's time to get in our time machine again, but not for, reminiscing reasons. Tom, who's alongside me today, had the fantastic idea of seeing what the early season form has been like in recent seasons and showing us, everybody, that it's not all bad news. As I've already mentioned, Tom is here on today's show, joining me, Kieran. Tom, how you doing?
Hello, Kieran. Hello to everyone. And after that weekend blip, it's all not doom and gloom, considering how we know seasons can pan out after the opening weekend of the season. So it's about diving in and just saying, well, it's not all what you may think it's going to be this season with the result. It could lead to better things in the future. It's not about how you start, it's how you finish.
That's absolutely right. And one of the last times we did lose 1-0 away on the opening day of the season, we slightly went on to win the title. So you never know. It was a 1-0 loss to Everton at Goodison Park. Goodison Park. Let's just take a moment to remember Goodison Park. Anyway, it's not impossible, but I think we might just have to temper the expectations off of last season. But as you say, Tom, write that off at your own peril. As you say, when it comes to these seasons, 37 games to go, long way to go. I mean, we're all predicting. I think you're our highest prediction of 6th place. The rest of us are sort of 7th or 8th. We've definitely tempered our expectations.
I stand by the fact we'll have a really good year. I think we'll plough on with what we've got, and I think the goals will come and the results will come our way sooner rather than later. Mind you, we do have some tough fixtures coming up with the likes of City and Chelsea after the international break. But those are the matches are kind of what we are prepared to do. Chelsea and City are two of the teams we want to be beaten the most. I mean, Liverpool are one team especially we want to be beaten as well. But whoever we go up against, we need to be getting points. And that, if we get the results that we want, it will ease some of the pressure on Ruben Amorim before we head probably into the next international break after this one coming up.
Absolutely. And just a bit of foreshadowing, by the way. Do you remember who scored the Everton goal last time we lost to 1-0 away?
It was Marouane Fellaini, a future United player, yeah.
A future United legend. Would you go that far? I'm not too sure. But definitely a Moyes sighting if you've ever seen one.
Well, I wouldn't call him a legend, but he was someone who did bits for us. And he turned out to be a quality signing at the end of the day. I don't think it was a complete waste of money because, what was it, 30 million? Just over 30 million we signed him for?
Yeah, 32.5, I think.
So when you think of it, it wasn't actually too bad of a deal, was it?
I think in the context of how football transfers were, say 10 years ago, maybe it was quite a stretch. I mean, 32.5 million nowadays probably transfers to the sort of 50, 60 million mark. Maybe. Someone will have to get a sort of inflation calculator out on that one. But I think it's a deal that we're seeing very similar money in terms of how much the money's worth, if that makes sense. Send us a postcard. But I want to point out in that season as well, having lost 1-0 away from home, our second match was against Fulham, albeit at home. We won 3-2 on that day, but this time we have to go to Craven Cottage to see how it goes on that season. And I'll throw some names at you, Tom. You had Raphael, you had Kagawa, and you had Van Persie all on the score sheet. Damien Duff, a certain Ireland international, on the Fulham scoreline, with Nemanja Vidic scoring an own goal. But we can gloss over that one.
Yeah. Well, we came over the result, and then the third game, we played Southampton away at St Mary's. Now, Southampton were playing in one of their first games back in the Premier League after a 7-year hiatus. It turned out to be a cracker of a game, actually, that Van Persie got a hat-trick on the day, his first United hat-trick, and only his second start for the club, which was completely outrageous. Not as outrageous as Rooney's hat-trick against Fenerbahce, which was his debut for United, but still, it led to great things for United that season. So, I am confident we're going to come away with positive results against Fulham and Burnley in the next 2 Premier League games, and then we'll see where we end up. And providing we don't get any injuries for when we face Chelsea. Is it Chelsea at home or is it Man City away? I think it's Man City away and then Chelsea at home. The 2 games after the international break.
Yeah, Man City away on the 14th of September, and then it's United at home, Chelsea at home at 5:30 on the Saturday, the 20th of September. So yeah, absolutely right. So again, those are tough games to come up against, but I feel like we've already had a tough start of an Arsenal side that once they got the goal, just showed how defensively resilient and resolute they actually are. You know, as Sam was saying on yesterday's episode about how it's a case of, okay, they weren't at their best, but they still got 3 points. And you hear that all the time about, oh yeah, if you're not at your greatest, but you still get the 3 points, that's, your form of champions is what it was. And I would say, well, we are at our best. I think we're better than we were towards the end of last season. And with a bit more, a bit more clinical finishing, we would be walking away with 3 points in that one. But you can't feel too deflated, more disappointed that we couldn't quite take a hold of that game like we should have.
Well, it was the opening weekend of the season. If you put in a strong performance like that but get beat, you have to feel positive that going forward, if we play like that each and every week, we would be getting goals and results. 100%. I don't care what anyone thinks, we will get results because performances may not align with the results to begin with, but they will do at some point soon enough. And I am very confident that these performances are going to come around. And maybe for one particular supporter who hasn't cut his hair for the best part of a year, waiting for Man United to win 5 games in a row before he does at last cut his hair, he's going to be praying for that kind of run at some point.
He's got to be hoping for Cunha or Mbeumo to get in some sort of scoring form. That's the only ticket out. We shall see. It's gone on for a lot longer. Kind of reminds me of Tom Huddleston. How he promised whilst he was at Tottenham, because he was in a rich scoring run of form, and he said, I won't cut my hair again until I score. It took him, goodness how long. Eventually he transferred to Hull City, where he finally got the goal. I'm going to have to look up how many years it was. Tom's going to say it. I know he is.
I'd have to have a look at that.
Because I will too, because it's only popped in my head. But I just remember the commentary on Match of the Day was finally he'll get a haircut. And I feel like that commentary line needs to be prepared by the United Strand.
Tom Huddleston scored in the Premier League for Hull City 3 times, in fact, during the 2013-14 season. That was Hull's first season back in the top flight. His last goal for Tottenham was in the 2010-11 season. So at least 2 to 3 years he went.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to find the exact date when he actually his first goals. Yeah. So on December the 28th, 2013, he scored in a 6-0 home win against Fulham. His first goal since, I think, the London derby for Tottenham against Arsenal in April 2011 in that 3-3 draw at White Hart Lane.
It's a long time. It's a long time.
Nearly 3 years.
Yes, long time to grow his hair. But in fairness, he did. I think he donated his hair after he'd shaved it. So it was a really, remarkable, noble thing to do for Tom Huddleston. And as a former United graduate, love to see him do well. It was quite a nice smile. How did we get on to Tom Huddleston? That was my fault. We are talking about starts and how hopefully that not the worst ones don't necessarily mean that we're in for a rough ride. We're going to take a little bit of a break. When we come back, a little bit more delving into the past and seeing what sort of results and what sort of early season form we've come up against and still had a good chunk of change from the season. We'll be back after this.
Your daily soccer podcast with the Global Sports Podcast Network.
Your body is unique, and Global Sports Podcast Network has partnered with Bionique, the world's most personalised supplements. Bionique provide 100% tailor-made supplements, designed to deliver precisely what your body needs at exactly the right levels to optimise your health. No guessing. So click the link in the show notes. Use the code GSPN2025 for 40% off your first month's subscription. Bionique. Don't settle for off-the-shelf solutions made for just anybody. Get what's right for you right now.
Your daily soccer podcast with the Global Sports Podcast Network.
Up until, well, I would say last night. I don't know why I was going so recent, but up until the loss against Arsenal, we had one of the best win percentages of match day one in the Premier League. Before the match, we had 33 wins, 33 games, I should say, 22 wins. So that's not a bad result. So maybe match day one kind of should be our thing. We've only lost 7 of them in the modern Premier League.
Yeah. Well, thinking of it, in 3 of our opening weekend defeats, we've gone on to win the title during the Ferguson years. Obviously, times have moved on since then. But like I say, it's kind of like that little curse, that opening weekend curse, where it can quickly turn around from there. And we've seen a lot of seasons turn around for other clubs as well from here, not just us, but even teams like City. Like 4 years ago, they lost their opening match at Tottenham. They still went on to win the league. So it's going to come down to who can make up for it this season. You know, if United can do it, then great. And once we get to around about, you know, mid-September or October, the opening day defeat to Arsenal will just be long forgotten. So it'll be long forgotten because people won't remember too much about that, because we will probably know it's not the same United, or somewhat is the same United, but the more clinical United to what we saw against Arsenal.
That's very true. And not only that, but as we all know, it's Amorim's first full season in charge. I feel like a good thing to look at would sort of be previous managers' first matches in charge. I mean, the likes of Louis van Gaal, you've got Jose Mourinho. I mean, let's have a look at Louis van Gaal back in 2014, I believe it was, 2014-15 was his first season in charge, and see how we go from there, because I guess you could try and compare it to previous managers about how they've started. Now, there is the caveat of Amorim's had about since, what was it, October, November he was appointed. So he's had, you know, a bit more of a head start, if you like, but still, it's his first full season in charge, and it'll be interesting to see how we stack up against previous managers and their starts to the campaign.
There's going to be a lot of managers under pressure this season, Kieran. You know, you think about Mikel Arteta, who is going to be under massive pressure to deliver something this season for Arsenal. You've got Graham Potter, who hadn't been on the best of run with West Ham even last season when he was there, and I think he's going to be up against it. And that's why there's this thing going around saying, right, who will be the first manager in the Premier League to be sacked? And a lot of people said Ruben Amorim, which I think is conceivable, but United are not playing in Europe this season. So that this is where I think people need to be mindful of the fact that Ruben Amorim hasn't had enough time to work with the players. Someone put a thing out a while ago, Kieran, of how many interviews or how much work Ruben Amorim has been doing within the media for people compared to how Pep Guardiola, Mikel Arteta and Arne Slot have been doing. The numbers are staggering. I would want to find out, actually, how many interviews Ruben Amorim has done with the media.
I thought you were going to go all Scott Steiner on me and say the numbers for you spell disaster at Sacrifice, but yeah, I will have a look. I mean, I'm looking at, I think, what I believe was Louis van Gaal's first game in charge, at least the first opening game of the season, back in 2014-15, and it was a loss. It was a 2-1 loss to Swansea at Old Trafford. Rooney on the score sheet, but you also had the likes of Ki Sung-young scoring. Wilfred Bonney on top, who didn't score, but still good to see. Loved a bit of Wilfred Bonney. Had a great song at Swansea. But yeah, again, a manager also had a loss on the opening day in Louis van Gaal. Let's have a look at Jose Mourinho. Oh, okay, Jose Mourinho won 3-1 away at Bournemouth, but there you go. With Rooney, Ibra and Mata on the score sheet. Oh, all the love for Ibra.
Yeah. I mean, even Ole Gunnar Solskjaer won. That's another thing, actually. When Ole Gunnar Solskjaer first took over from Jose Mourinho in December 2018, he won his first 8 games in all comps, which is like the best run, or equal best run, for, I think, any manager in the top 5 leagues or something like that. I'm probably talking out of my backside on that one, but it was one of the best runs for a manager starting at a top club like Manchester United. I looked at the Ruben Amorim one, and apparently, about 14 weeks ago, this post was put out. Just under 500 interviews Ruben Amorim has conducted within the media, which is probably going to be more than that, probably over 500 now that he's been doing with the media. It's insane, and he's only been in the job for 9 months.
There's a good bit of maths in there, so that's what?
Yeah,
50 interviews a month. Is that right?
Probably even more than that, actually.
Probably, yeah, you're probably right.
If about 55, that's almost like on average 2 a day.
Yeah,
2 a day.
Now, is that counting all of the MUTV interviews he does? Does that count pre-game, pre-match conference, post-match conference? I mean, if they're going to do the halftime interviews now with Amorim, that's going to be more.
That's going to count as it. So what I've got is 296 interviews for 25 Premier League games, 150 interviews for 10 Europa League matches, 45 interviews for 4 domestic cup matches.
But does that come as part of the package as being Manchester United manager? Because, you know, I get as a manager, you take the heat off the players. You take the heat yourself. And, you know, that's why managers at the helm will always get the sack first, because it's easier to get rid of one manager than 11 players. But the manager's there to kind of take the heat of a bad performance or a bad day at the office, but then plaudits the players, you know, when they get a 3-0, 4-0 victory. So it's kind of like, is that part of the job description where you are in the media and you are trying to back the players as much as possible? You know, is that part and parcel as a Man United manager, or is that just where we're going with managers in general that have to be in front of the camera more often?
It feels like nothing has been different from manager to manager, Kieran, and it's just the curse of being the Manchester United manager. And I thoroughly wish people would just give these managers some slack, but of course they won't, because it's Man United. It's arguably the most commercialised football club in the world.
Yeah.
So, I just wish the Glazers, for instance, would just put some form of veto to the media and say, look, we're restricting more on the interviews because our manager's not been able to spend enough time on the training ground with the players, which sounds a bit blasé, but the reality is he wasn't able to do that last season. Which explains why in just under 500 interviews, when this post I saw that came out in May, actually. So from November to May, that's 6 months. What's that in general? It was about 80 or 75.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
It is a lot.
Oh my!
Now
it was a massive distraction to Ruben Amorim, and I get that the journalists have a job to do, especially the ones like from Sky and all that who have got rights to attend press conferences or representatives for them going to press conferences at Old Trafford or wherever it is. But come on.
Yeah.
I'm just not a fan of it. I mean, if you're going to do it with Amorim, you may as well do it to clubs like Liverpool, Man City and Arsenal. So where's the consistency in that then?
But I think there is so much attention on Man United because it's off the back of, we say, and we have said before, the worst Premier League season, but we should probably clarify that and say it's the worst modern Premier League season of all time for Manchester United, because there have been seasons we've been relegated from the top flight back in the 70s. I think it was the 70s.
Yeah, 1974 when we were last relegated.
See, I love having an encyclopedia on the podcast. So it's not the worst top flight season ever. We should clarify that. It's the worst modern Premier League season of all time that we've had. And so, a title hasn't been in Manchester United for over 10 years now. The last time we had it was Sir Alex Ferguson. For the last Premier League winner, the last Premier League manager of Manchester United, the winner of the Premier League, to be still Sir Alex Ferguson even 11 years later. I mean, that's why the spectacle's all over us. Yes, we've had FA Cup success, we've had Europa League success over that time. So it's not been a completely barren run. Let's not get all, doom and gloom. But the elusive title, the Premier League, has been away for too long, and the longer that goes on, the more media attention is going to be.
So if we win the Premier League, will that shut the media up for a while?
You've instantly hit the crux of my argument there. No, it won't. But I think that comes hand in hand with what you said as Manchester United being one of the most commercialised and one of the most recognisable brands in world football. And I think therein lies the difference. It's not just a club, it is a brand. And this is what Manchester City and Liverpool, and I would say Chelsea as well, have to deal with as well, that they have to be brands outside of England to have that global success. It comes part and parcel with having an international fan base. But the thing about that is not everyone can tune into those pre-match press conferences or even the post-match press conferences. You have fans around the world that are tuning in to try and watch it, but some will try and tune in on social media or on MUTV afterwards. And so the content has to be there for them as well. So, I think, kind of answering my own question, does it come part and parcel of being a Manchester United manager? Yes, I think the press and the media are paramount in making sure the good image of Manchester United is portrayed, even in such a terrible, poor season that we've just had.
I mean, with where the success is at United, on the global front, it's understandable because, it's popular in the US, it's popular in Malaysia, it's popular in Thailand. The club's a big, big brand, and fans all over the world tune in to watch Manchester United, no matter what the time zone is over there. I just want United to just prove why they are, and why they are the biggest club in the world, and that's to see what we do on the football pitch. That's what's been missing for some time, because the Glazers have been resorting more to sponsors as opposed to aligning that to what we do on the football pitch. So that's where I'm really, really perplexed by where the Glazers are going to get Man United back to where they are. It feels to me like they're most happy to do it the hardest way, in a way where it's not on them if United win it. If you see where I'm coming from, it's almost like it's an entrepreneurial thing where you don't want people to know about it, but it's like you want to find the plausible reasons as to why Manchester United are the most successful football club on the commercial side of things, at least. But they would never ever say that to the media at all, because they're in the football club. There's obviously sponsors involved, there's contracts involved, and things like that. But the proof is in the pudding. United on the football pitch, it doesn't align to what the commercial side of things says, and especially now with the recruitment. It's not even on the pitch, it's recruitment. Because we had, Dan Ashworth, who was the football director, wasn't he, last year?
Yeah, I believe so, but left after a few months.
Yeah, I mean, explain that to me, because he looks like a positive addition to the club, only to be shown the door a few months later.
Well, sure, Ralph Rangnick was effectively airing out what was wrong. And whether those warnings got heeded, I don't know. But even Rangnick, in his interim time as manager, to almost give us a Gus Hiddink run towards the end of the season, even he was pointing out, this shouldn't work. There's this problem, and if this doesn't get solved, you'll get nowhere. Rangnick was giving almost constructive criticism, but when that wasn't heeded, he then went public with it. And I mean, talk about airing your frustration. I think what he said, goes down. You've got the interview with Ronaldo as well. It's somehow we've gone from, it's not all doom and gloom if we lose an opening day, to now being like the total inner machinations of Old Trafford. But how does it all work? But I think the important thing right now is, no matter how many interviews Amorim does, no matter how much less of him on a TV screen you want him to see, Tom, or at least you want to see of him. There we go. I've got the words in the right order there. And him more on the training ground. I feel like the summer, we haven't heard a lot. Transfers are in. Nobody's really left the club. If they have, it's been on loan, and it's been sort of our youth products and youth talents going out on loan to gain experience. but I feel like there were positives to take away from the first game. And that has been something I really maybe not have said over the last couple of seasons. And that's been quite refreshing, even if we didn't get 3 points or even a point.
We wind back 12 months ago when we played Fulham in the opening game of the season. We won the game 1-0, but did the performance align with that?
You know, I've scrubbed last season out of my mind. I'm trying to remember what actually happened.
Xerxes winner. It was Xerxes who came on as a sub and got the winning goal.
Oh yes, that's right. I was so positive after that game. I think I've learned my lesson.
I wasn't convinced by the performance at all because that performance was so flat. And I would have happily taken what we had at the weekend to what we had 12 months back, because it was a clear paper over the cracks. And then we lost our next 2 games to Brighton away and Liverpool at home.
I mean, you get the Liverpool one. You know, it happens if you're coming up against one of the top sides in England right now. And even with that sort of, even with Arne Slot in his first season taking over a Klopp side, it was still a very dangerous side. Don't care what you say. I think I not only have blotted that out of my memory, but I think maybe on the flip side, I'll have to look back at the last year's episode about the game against Fulham. I was so full of positivity and saying, we could get Europe this year. I'm sure we can. I don't think I was that blindsided that I was talking about a title or we could be back at the top. But I definitely was much more positive in terms of I was blindsided by what actually happened in the match, and Xerxes scoring what would be one of, I want to say, 4 Premier League goals that season.
Who's Xerxes?
3, yeah.
Well, overall that Xerxes scored?
In the Premier League that season, which it's only 3 or 4.
Yeah, it wasn't many.
No.
But I was also thinking, go back to our topic of the opening games for us. We played Wolves a couple of years ago at Old Trafford. We won 1-0 thanks to a late Varane header that got us over the line, but we survived a penalty shout, which was a slam dunk penalty. I don't know why VAR didn't give it. It was when Onana came out and just clattered into the Wolves forward or whoever it was, and we survived that one. And we didn't play very well in that game either. And the one before that, 22-23, Brighton at home, Erik ten Hag's first game. Woeful again. We lost, and we didn't even play very well in that either.
Yeah.
So you have to say, in the last 4 seasons, the game against Arsenal was by far the best performance out of the lot, since we won 5-1 against Leeds.
Yeah, against Leeds as well. Yeah. That always makes it a nice sweet pill to swallow as well. Well, hey, listen, if our episode has taught you anything, it's not all doom and gloom. As Tom has said, possibly one of the greater opening day performances, maybe not result, but you never know what could happen over the next 37. We have the Fulham game on Sunday. Don't forget, we'll have an episode for you tomorrow, diving more into the preview of the actual game itself. And of course, some hosts of ours will be joining you pretty much immediately after the match, as soon as we can get the episode uploaded about the Fulham game. So hopefully it's all 3 points at Craven Cottage. We shall wait and see. Tom, thank you so much for joining me on today's episode. It was nice to sort of have we've been more positive this week, I think, in more other podcasts this week. But I feel like, there's a lot to be happy about. There's a lot to be frustrated about. But I think in the long run, looking back at it, plenty of positives to pick out.
Absolutely so, and I am looking forward to the weekend against Fulham. And if we can put in another performance like that, we've got a great chance to come away with a strong result and kick on. Obviously, we've got the League Cup tie at Grimsby to follow, which could be another opportunity for some of the youngsters to get a go at it, as well as Tom Heaton getting a game and goals, so that it can provide at least an option for Ruben Amorim for the trip to. Oh no, it's at home against Burnley, isn't it?
And I believe so. Yes.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to it either way, and if we can put Fulham to the sword, because I did go and see them at the weekend at Brighton,
You were very scathing of that report. I know that much.
Yeah,
I saw that.
it was a scrappy game, but I don't think Fulham created enough to win that game, and I think it's going to be Fulham being Fulham. So if we can go there and start what could be another league double over them, like we did last season. We did beat Fulham twice in the Premier League last season, and I think we'll probably do so this time around again. I've
erased last season out of my memory, so I'm glad Tom's here to remind me. But hey, let's hope that doesn't come back to you. Since we're, I believe, both not on the preview podcast tomorrow, score prediction?
I'm going to go 3-0 to United.
I was going to say, please say to United.
Can you imagine if we actually performed very well, despite the fact that we go 3-0 down?
That would be... Even I would struggle to do that. I'd find a way, but I'm going to go 2-1 United. I think I think there's elements of the game that are starting to push through. That sort of triangle up at the top. If Sesko starts, we'll see. If Højlund makes the team, we'll see. But yeah, I'm going to go 2-1. 2-1 to United, and hopefully our first 3 points on the road. But we shall wait and see. Join us tomorrow for the preview podcast episode, and hopefully you'll join us on all the social medias as well to get joining in on the conversation. It's GSPN Man United. We are on Twitter and X, we're on Instagram, we're on TikTok, and we're on Facebook. And you can also watch the episodes now if you're of that volition. If you're listening on Apple and Spotify and you're thinking, I wonder what Tom's looking like right now. Well, you can head over to our YouTube page. It's GSPN Daily Man United podcast. Go on, Tom, give them a wave. See, you're missing out. You are missing out if you're not watching on YouTube. So go ahead, subscribe so you don't miss another episode. In the meantime, though, thank you so much for listening and watching today's episode. We've got our fingers crossed for all 3 points at Craven Cottage. Until then, we'll talk to you soon. Have a great weekend. Take care of yourselves.
Your daily soccer podcast with the Global Sports Podcast Network.